Have you been going around the internet looking for the ultimate baseball podcast? Well, you've just found it. On the Dugout Report, we'll cover not only the latest news from across Major League Baseball, but we'll also analyze and break down the hottest games, players, stats, and takes from every aspect of the game, including from on the field, in the dugout and clubhouse, from the front office, and so much more. As longtime White Sox broadcaster Ken the Hawk Harrelson would say, sit back, relax, and strap it down. This is the Dugout Report podcast with Andrew Caruso. Hello everyone, and a very happy Sunday to you, wherever you may be. This is episode 3 of the Dugout Report on this Sunday, December 12th, 2021. I am your host, Andrew Caruso. This is the second to last episode before the show goes off air for the holidays. Just to let you know about the schedule for the next few weeks, the last show of 2021 will be released next Sunday, December 19th. It'll then go off air for the weeks of December 26th and January 2nd, which is also my 16th birthday. The first episode of 2022, episode 5, will be released on Sunday, January 9th, with me a full year older and wiser. Anyways, coming up on this episode, I'll cover and give my thoughts on the MLB's first work stoppage and lockout in 25 years. I'll also give my thoughts on the results of the Hall of Fame Veterans Committee vote that was announced last Sunday. Next, I'll cover some of the major signings and trades from the hot stove over the last week or two. Some of them will be covered this week, and those I didn't cover in this episode will be covered next week. So stay tuned. To cap off the episode, there will be another free agent profile. Make sure you listen to the end to find out who our free agent of the week is, as voted on by you, the fans. As I said last week, and I'm going to reiterate again here, there will be no additional social media segment besides the poll for this episode. I want to focus solely on news and the profile to keep the episode at a reasonable length, so I don't lose y'all due to a long episode. Some of you may be able to listen to me for a long time, and by that I mean an hour or two, and some of you may be able to listen to a 25 or 30 minute show. Cutting unnecessary segments allow me to be fair to all my listeners. That will be the case for the next episode too. After the new year, when the show comes back, after the holidays, I'll start bringing back additional social media segments in addition to the free agent profiles, since there will be no news to cover due to the lockout. Let me know what you'd like to see in the meantime, and thanks for your understanding during this period. If you missed the last episode from last week, you can listen to that episode and previous editions of the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube. Also, I want to remind you, you can follow the show on Twitter at DugoutRepPod. That's Dugout REP Pod. While you're at it, follow my personal Twitter feed at AndrewCaruso77. We've got a lot to cover, so we can't waste any more time. So with that being said, let's head into the dugout to talk baseball. Our top story this week is covering the biggest news from the past week, and that news is that it's official. Major League Baseball has entered its first work stoppage and lockout in 26 years. The previous collective bargaining agreement, or CBA, between the players and the union expired on December 1st at 11:59 Eastern Time, after the two groups failed to reach a new agreement over the previous few days. Thus, MLB was forced to commence a work stoppage and lockout effective on December 2nd at 12:01 Eastern. The last work stoppage in baseball occurred from August 12th of 1994 to April 2nd of 1995. This strike wiped out the last 8 weeks of the season and canceled the playoff. It also delayed the start of the 95 season until April 26th. In 1994, each of the 28 teams played anywhere from 112 to 117 games, and in 1995, each team played 144 games. The last strike also delayed the implementation of the three-division system that we know today until the 1995 season. The Montreal Expos and New York Yankees, who had the best record in their respective leagues at the time of the play stoppage, were the AL and NL coaching staffs for the 1995 All-Star Game in Arlington, Texas. Anyways, enough of my little history lesson. It's time to go back to the current news. I'm a history nerd, so I didn't mean to go on that little tangent there. In an open letter to the fans published on the MLB website on December 2nd, Commissioner Rob Manfred wrote, quote, "I want to thank you for your continued support of the great game of baseball. This past season we were reminded of how the national pastime can bring us together and restore our hope despite the difficult challenges of a global pandemic. As we began to emerge from one of the darkest periods in our history, our ballparks were filled with fans. The games were filled with excitement, and millions of families felt the joy of watching baseball together." Manfred then went on to say, quote, in regards to the lockout, quote, simply put, we believe an off-season lockout is the best mechanism to protect the 2022 season. We hope the lockout will jumpstart the negotiations and get us to an agreement that will allow the season to start in time. In regards to the season, the commissioner stated, quote, "This important step does not necessarily mean games will be canceled. In fact, we are taking this step now because it accelerates the urgency for an agreement with as much runway as possible to avoid doing damage to the 2022 season. Delaying the process further would only put spring training, opening day, and the rest of the season further at risk, and we cannot allow an expired agreement to again cause an in-season strike and a missed World Series like we experienced in 1994. So you might be wondering what happens during the lockout period. Well, during the lockout period, all transactions come to a halt, which means no MLB signings or trades. However, teams can still sign players to minor league contracts, and a number of teams have done so within the past couple of weeks. MLB cannot use player images on their site, and all player images on the roster screen for each team have been replaced with generic blank photos because name and imaging rights are covered under the CBA. Many players have replaced their profile photos on social media with blank headshots. All current player news has been scrubbed from the MLB website and has been replaced with historical content. MLB Network has followed suit and is only showing historical content for the time being. Other sites such as ESPN are avoiding using any images of current players. Basically, there's nothing about current players on MLB's news on any of MLB's news outlets right now. Lastly, the players also forfeit their salary for the lockout period, which means arbitration and the major league portion of the Rule 5 draft have been postponed until further notice. With that being said, I'm only getting around to covering the lockout now because I wrote the script for episode 2 before the lockout took effect. The transactions I covered today took place after I had finalized it, and it was too late to insert them in at the last minute. Let me know your thoughts on the lockout and how long do you think it'll last. Now, let's head to Cooperstown to talk about the results of the Veterans Committee vote from last Sunday. Stay tuned. We have some major news out of Cooperstown, New York, home to the Baseball Hall of Fame. As last Sunday, Cooperstown called 6 new members to its hallowed hall through the Early Baseball and Golden Days era committee's ballots. The Early Days ballot consists of individuals who made their greatest impact on the game before 1950, and the Golden Days ballot consists of individuals who made their greatest impact on the game from between 1950 and 1969. Each of the committees for the ballot consist of 16 members, which includes a mix of Hall of Famers, baseball writers, and baseball historians. Each ballot consists of 10 individuals. For an election to Cooperstown, a candidate must receive at least 12 votes, which is 75% of the vote out of a possible 16. 75% is also the amount a candidate must receive from the regular writer's ballot. More on that within the coming weeks. Anyways, 4 players from the Golden Days ballot and 2 individuals from the early baseball ballot were chosen for election as part of the class of 2022. Those individuals are, from the Golden Days ballot, Gil Hodges, Tony Oliva, Orestes Mini-Minoso, and Jim Cott. Dick Allen was also on this ballot, but he fell 1 vote short of election. The other 2 individuals elected from the early baseball ballot were Negro League legends Bud Fowler and John Jordan Buck O'Neill. Sorry. I'm really happy for all the players who were elected last week, especially O'Neill, Minoso, and Hodges, because they've waited so long to finally get the recognition they deserve. It's a shame that none of them are around to witness it, and it's also a shame that Dick Allen fell 1 vote short of election. It'll be interesting to see who will join them in Cooperstown this summer when the BBWAA ballots are announced next month. I predicted a big class this year. After the shutout last year, I guess 6 players from both ballots would get in, and I got Buck, Gil, and Minnie right. I didn't guess Jim Cott, Tony Oliva, or Bud Fowler when making my picks. The people I guessed who didn't get in were Ken Boyer, Allen, and Roger Maris. My guesses for the BBWAA ballot will be revealed in a future episode, probably as we get closer to the results dates for it, and those results will be revealed on January 25th. So probably I'll do a social media segment asking for people to send in their ballot and who they would vote for if they were a baseball writer for the episode preceding the 25th. But we're almost a month away from that date, so stay tuned to social for the ballot submission tweet. That's enough for now on historic baseball. So it's time to cover some of the major hot stove moves that took place before the lockout. Don't go away, because that's coming right up. Next up, it's time to turn our attention to the hot stove and the moves regarding big free agent signings that took place before the lockout. So many moves took place, and because of that, I've decided to cover some moves today, and whatever I don't cover this week will be covered next week, as I said earlier. This week we'll cover the Texas Rangers making major signings of their new middle infielders Corey Seager and Marcus Semien. In addition, we'll cover the Mariners signing Robbie Ray, the Blue Jays signing Kevin Gausman, and the Mets signing Mad Max Scherzer. Last, we will cover the Tigers signing of Javi Baez. I'll quickly go over the details of the contract and give my reaction to the signing. We don't have time to go in depth with each move due to the long list of them, so this segment will be like rapid fire. Our first move to cover in this episode is the Texas Rangers have made a duo of major signings by grabbing 2 of the top middle infield on the open market by signing them each to big contracts. Second baseman Marcus Semien signed a 7-year, $175 million deal, and shortstop Corey Seager signed a 10-year, $125 million deal. The moves, plus some others, were confirmed by Texas hours before the lockout took effect. Both key deals contain millions in signing bonuses and are part of the Rangers off-season spending spree, which has seen them spend an MLB record $561.2 million so far. I like both the Semien and Seager deals, and I have to say, I wasn't expecting them to sign together and with the same team. Those mega contracts will ensure Rangers fans have a part of the team to look forward to for a while, especially if both players put up the stats that led them to get big paydays each. Our next set of moves around a trio of pitchers who signed big contracts after putting up outstanding numbers last year. Kevin Gausman signed a 5-year, $110 million contract with the Toronto Blue Jays. AL American League Cy Young Award winner Robbie Ray signed a 5-year deal for $115 million with Seattle. And lastly, Max Scherzer signed a 3-year, $130 million deal with the New York Mets. Scherzer's deal gives him the largest average annual value, or AAV, of any MLB player at $43.3 million, breaking the record set by Trevor Bauer prior to the 2021 season when he signed a contract with the Dodgers at an AAV of $102 million. I also like the move because it gives each of respective rotation another strong starter to pair with one or two solid starters they already have. For example, Gausman is paired with Jose Barrios and Hyun-Jin Ryu, and Max Scherzer is paired with Jacob deGrom. In the case of Robbie Ray, he gives the M's an ace pitcher who can be trusted to go out every 5 days to dominate, especially since they lost UK Kikuchi to free agency. Ray signing with the team locks down the top rotation spot for them. Let's hope he puts up the numbers that led him to the Cy Young in Seattle. Our last hot stove move for this episode is that Javi Baez has signed a 6-year contract worth $140 million with the Detroit Tigers. The deal includes an opt-out clause after a period of time. It is the second largest free agent contract that the Tigers have given to a player in their franchise history, and the third key move Detroit has made this offseason, after they signed Eduardo Rodriguez from free agency and traded for Tucker Barnhart from Cincinnati. I'm going to say this again, and I mean it. I really like the Baez signing plus all the other key moves the Tigers have made this offseason. I think both them and the Rangers are looking to improve and win more games in 2022. It'll be interesting to see if Carlos Correa ends up joining Baez and reuniting with agents by going to the Motor City once the lockout is over and the transaction freeze is lifted. Let me know what you think about all these hot stove moves, because it was definitely a lot to cover. I think we're getting close to the end of the episode, so now it's time to reveal this week's free agent profile. Stay tuned to find out who our spotlighted player is. To end the episode like we did last week, it's time to reveal this week's free agent for this edition of Free Agent Profiles. This week was interesting because the first poll ended in a 50-50 tie between Trevor Story and Freddie Freeman. So to break the tie, I had to administer a tiebreaker poll on Twitter, and Trevor Story won that poll. So he's the lucky free agent for this week's profile. A little bit on Story. He's a right-handed hitting and throwing shortstop who spent the last 6 seasons with the Colorado Rockies. Prior to making his debut with them in 2016, he played baseball at Irving High School in Irving, Texas, and went to Louisiana State University on a baseball scholarship. Story was selected by the Rocks with the 45th overall pick in the 2011 draft. He took home National League Rookie of the Year honors in 2016, and over his career, Story has been named an All-Star twice in 2018 and again in 2019 while winning the NL Silver Slugger at shortstop in those same 2 years. He was also the stolen base leader in the NL in 2020 and holds the MLB record for the fastest shortstop to reach 100 career homers. According to the latest rumors, which were released on December 1st, hours before the lockout, the Mariners are looking at Story for their third base opening, after they declined Kyle Seager's option. According to MLB Network's Don Heyman, Seattle is committed to keeping J.P. Crawford at short right now. And right now, Abraham Toro is the projected starter at third third for them. If they were to sign Story, they could put Torre at second and new acquisition Adam Frazier in the outfield. Keep in mind that Story hasn't played at second or third base since his time in the minors, but according to Heyman, his long list of suitors are considering the possibility of him playing other positions before they join their team. The Rangers were also talking to Story to be their shortstop after Texas signed Marcus Semien, but the Semien to play second, but since they signed Corey Seager, that's pretty unlikely at this point. The Mariners also forfeited a draft pick after they signed Robbie Ray because he received a qualifying offer, and they would have to forfeit another one if they were to sign Story, since he also received a qualifying offer. The Rockies are also looking to bring him back after he declined their $18.4 million qualifying offer. The Houston Astros were also talking to Story before the lockout halted all transactions. All in all, it'll be interesting to see where he ends up signing once the lockout is over. Rockies, Mariners, Yankees, Phillies, even the Red Sox. Who knows? Guess we'll have to wait and see. That concludes another edition of Free Agent Profile. Stay tuned to Twitter so you can vote on next week's free agent. Unfortunately, we sadly reached the end of the episode, but closing remarks are coming right up. So keep listening and don't go away. So, that concludes the end of episode 3 of the Dugout Report. Thanks again for listening, and I hope you enjoyed the episode. Once again, as a reminder, you can follow this show on Twitter at DugoutRepPod and my personal feed at AndrewCaruso77. You can find this show on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, and YouTube. Please share this episode with your friends and on social media. That's it for this week, so this is your host, Andrew Caruso, signing off. I'll see you next week. Thanks for listening. So long, everyone.